All right, so let's head over to the lowly AFC South. We're going to start off with the lowly of the lowliest, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, a quarterback here, as we've all heard since the draft, they're planning to sit, basically a redshirt, the third overall pick, Blake Bortles, for the majority of the season, which, in today's day and age, it's kind of rare to draft a quarterback as the third overall pick and then sit him, especially when you don't have studs in front of him. So that's pretty curious, but I think they just feel that's the best thing for him, apparently. But they're going to sit him for veteran Chad Henne, who has pretty much settled in there for what appears to be a lengthy role. And they're giving him a long leash as well as the team starter entering the second year of Jed Fish's offense. The coaches are said to have been showing quite a bit of confidence in Chad. Giving him more freedom to call audibles is kind of the big difference. Henne is quoted as saying, if we have to throw it every down because they're giving us so many guys at the line of scrimmage, then we're just going to throw it. The coaches are working with Bortles to correct some of his lower body mechanics, and help him throw the ball with more power. And he has impressed, Jed there in camp the first few weeks, and he's been making, he's progressing. And he thinks he's ahead of where they thought he would be. But that being said, they're definitely not. He's not even in contention for starting him this season. So we'll see if he even hits the field. If Chad starts to really struggle and their season's going down the tank, maybe they get Blake in there as long as their offensive line is good enough not to kill their third overall pick and get him some reps in there. You would assume that would happen at some point. But this is definitely not like a Johnny Manziel situation or anything like that. This guy is definitely not even in contention for starting the season or being thought of as starting in the first 4 or 5 games. So we'll kind of see how that settles out. And neither Henne or Bortles, of course, is being drafted in the top 24 for quarterbacks in 12-man leagues at all. So from a running back perspective, the first week of camp, did nothing to dampen the expectations for Toby, the Great White Hope Gerhart. They're definitely pegging him as their 3-down back, as a workhorse, one of the rare workhorses in the NFL. It said out of camp that he's surprising his defensive teammates with his speed and reliable hands. So that's good information, good news there. Coaches have been very happy with his pass protection. Remember, this guy was runner-up to the Heisman, I believe, in like 3 or 4 years ago. So he's no slouch, and he's still got some speed. He doesn't have a lot of work on those legs either because he was behind Adrian Peterson, of course, for all those years there in Minnesota. So, the coach is saying, Jed's saying he's got the ability to do it all. He can catch it well. He can pass protect. He's going to be in the game a lot. Third down, base downs, short yardage, passing downs. That's coming straight out of the coach's mouth. So, that's pretty good information. It's pretty good news for us. Trying to find these workhorse backs for our fantasy football draft. So he actually didn't play in the preseason game. He's kind of had some tightness in his legs. So they're just kind of holding him out a little bit just to play it safe, but no real concern there. But he's projected as getting 20 or more touches a game, making him a pretty safe pick as an RB2. Now he's going as the 19th running back off the board in PPR, kind of in the middle of the 4th round. So he's definitely a solid RB2. He's going after the likes of Zach Stacy and Spiller and Vereen, but he's going right before Rashad Jennings. Those guys are kind of back-to-back. Before Bishop Sankey, who looked really good, by the way, the other night in their first preseason game, and Ryan Matthews. So, I know, Jay, you and I are both pretty high on this guy. It seems like a little bit of a risky pick, but at the same time, given the volume that he's supposed to be getting, that's pretty comforting.
Well, I think the only reason that you say it's a risky pick is because you're racist. He's white. No,
that could be my subconscious.
No, look, yeah. I mean, this is one of those guys that you and I are going to be literally beating the shit out of each other over next week, our draft, because I want him. I want a guy that's going to get 20 touches a game, that's going to get the goal line work, that's going to catch passes out of the backfield. I mean, look, if he lives up to the great white hype, he's going to be a great guy to have this year. I mean, arguably a top 10 back, if he gets all this work and he stays healthy. So, and grabbing him or Rashad Jennings, those are the two guys that I'm kind of like, which one do I grab? You know, and I think Gerhardt probably has the edge in that battle just because of the amount of work he's going to get. You know, I mean, Rashad Jennings may lose some goal line work to the rookie, and I can't think of his name right now, Andre Williams or something like that.
Yes.
In New York. So Gerhardt's not. We don't have that kind of a thing happening with Toby Gerhardt. Toby Gerhardt is going to get everything. He's going to get the goal line work. He's going to catch passes. He's going to get first to third down. You know, I mean, he's just going to be in the game a lot, getting the ball handed to him a lot. Especially with the likes of Chad Henne as quarterback. I mean, it's not like the passing game in Jacksonville is going to be, you know, great or anything like that. So.
Well, but let me ask you this, Jay. But at the end of the day, he does still play for Jacksonville, which is definitely not in his favor. You know, and their offensive line isn't all that great. So, you know, I know you're really high on Shane Vereen, and Shane Vereen is being drafted in a PPR about 5 spots after Toby Gerhardt, which represents about a full at the beginning of the 5th. So you get Shane Vereen in the beginning of the 5th, or Toby in the beginning of the 4th. So it's a full round later, so it's a round better in value. But straight up, man for man, do you not like Vereen more than Gerhardt at this point?
Oh, that's a tough question. I love Vereen in PPR. That would be one of those decisions that I hope I don't have to make in the draft. Yeah. Because it's agonizing. Which one do you take? Vereen would probably have the edge there just because he's proven commodity to me. I know that he's going to put up points. I know he's going to get the ball a lot. He's on a better team. Better offense altogether, so I would probably give him the edge in that decision. But again, it's very close. Gerhardt, even on a worse team, just the volume alone makes him worth, you know, a 4th round, 5th round pick. He's just going to get the ball so much. I think. So.
Yeah, I think if you get one of these, I mean, you got Gerhardt, Matthews, Frank Gore, Rashad Jennings, Sankey, and Vereen all back to back to back. I think you can come out of the draft with one of these guys, maybe even 2 if things fall right, kind of in these early middle rounds. I think you'll be doing pretty well.
Just real quick, this is what we were talking about this the other day. You and I were, and what I said about this year in this year's draft. And normally I'm a running back early and often guy. That's how I usually draft, and it's always done me very well. This year, I'm rethinking that strategy for this season because there's so many of these guys in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, these running backs, you know, Vereen, Gerhardt, Rashad Jennings, Bishop Sankey. I mean, these guys that I think are going to give you really solid running back 2 value and really solid numbers. So, you know, this may be a season, you know, for all you out there listening, where you go ahead and get your stud running back in the 1st round, but then go, you know, real wide receiver heavy for the next couple rounds, because you're going to be able to get some really good running backs in the middle rounds of this year's draft that you haven't been able to really do that in the past years. So
yeah, well, and as we've said, you know, just to keep reminding people that in the history of fantasy football, you know, out of the first round of the first round of the drafts, the running backs, only about 50% of these running backs actually live up, you know, to their draft, you know, expectations. So, you know, these guys that are in these middle rounds, you know, half of them are going to replace the guys that you drafted in the 1st round, essentially. So I think that's a good plan. Go ahead and get your guy you can hang your hat on at both positions if you can, and then kind of wait and get some of those. Keep going with wide receivers. They're definitely safer. They don't get hurt as often. They're more consistent. And then take some shots on some of these guys in these middle rounds. It's not really taking shots. I mean, these guys are solid, productive guys. And I think you can, especially in a league where you only have to start 2 running backs, and you can start maybe 3 or 4 wide receivers in various flex positions. I think that's probably the best way to go. So, all right, so we're going to move ahead real quick to the wide receivers here. You know, Cecil Shorts is a guy who did, you know, very well for fantasy football last year. He did suffer a grade 2 hamstring pull, you know, during practice on the first few days of camp. You know, he's going to miss at least 2 weeks or so. You know, he had growing surgery back in December. So, you know, expect his ADT to drop, you know, appropriately as he's entering his contract year for him this year. You've got the rookies Marquise Lee and Allen Robinson actually there, who've been making quite a bit of news here, you know, out of camp there. Lee has been kind of lining up all over the field. Jed's finding ways to to get this guy the ball. And he's got a lot of speed. This guy, if you guys haven't seen him play in college, he has a chance to break it, take it to the house pretty much anytime he gets his hands on the ball. He's kind of freakish in that way. So, but really, so you've got Cecil Shorts there as the number one. He's going 44th overall with kind of his injury issues and the fact that he's not playing right now. Going in the 10th round. He's going after guys like Riley Cooper and Tavon Austin and DeAndre Hopkins. So I definitely take a shot on him at that point. Before Anquan Bolden, Hakeem Nicks, who's horrible by the way, and Marquise Lee. I mean, if you want to throw a dart on somebody, this rookie's pretty promising, going 66th overall in the 14th round. It's just another guy you could just throw a dart at, and see if he hits, and if he doesn't, you just simply drop him. As far as what's that?
Going back to Cecil Shorts for a second, just going to throw this out there. Don't sleep on this guy, people. I mean, you can get him late, but last year he quietly put up a really nice season, and he can be a really good wide receiver too, or flex play for you for sure. He saved my ass last season, so I'm going to give him a little endorsement.
Yeah, he did, and especially getting him in the middle of the 10th round, you can't beat that. So as far as tight ends go in Jacksonville, you got Mercedes Lewis. He's having a good camp himself. He's healthy. He had his best offseason thus far. And it carried through into camp. He's catching everything thrown his way, is what they're saying. He's a big, strong guy. He's a great red zone target. Been in the past. With his current ADP, it's a guy you can get very late. He's outside of the top 20 at tight ends in ADP actually. So if you're trying to back somebody up, or maybe you get a stud at the beginning, and a lot of these guys go, in a 10 or 12 man league, he might be even deeper than you need to go, but he's a guy to keep an eye on or maybe if you're in a touchdown league, that sort of thing. So, but that pretty much does it for the lowly Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right, well, we're going to move on to the Tennessee Titans now, and Tennessee, who really cares? Do we need to do this?
Well, let's just touch on it.
All right. Jake Locker is locked in as the starter as he enters his final year of his rookie deal. He looks sharp in camp. He appears to be on the same page with all of his offensive weapons. Observers have noted that he has not shown the accuracy that have plagued him in the past seasons. Also, per the club's request, he dropped 5 pounds to take the pressure off his foot, and he looks healthy. So that's a good thing for Locker and the wide receivers there. Bishop Sankey, the rookie, has shown some flash, making quick cuts for big gains. Coach Weisenhunt, I wish the Lions would have got him. Oh well, Jim Caldwell will do. Anyway, Weisenhunt reaffirmed that Sankey was drafted because he's a good match for what the offensive system he hopes to run down there. So, with the coach taking a guy like that, he's going to play. Coach handpicked him. He wants him. Thinks he's going to be a good guy. And his backup is Sean Green. So, I mean, the guy's like a freaking tub. He's a brick. He can't play. He's terrible. But they may use him as a goal line back from what reports we're hearing. So he is overweight. The coach is not happy with his weight, apparently. Like, that's a quote. Not happy with his weight. Dexter McCluster is expected to contribute to the offense in some different roles this year. He's going to be used as a receiver and a running back. He looks good catching the ball, but he has struggled a bit when the pads went on. He's not a real big guy, so maybe those pads are a little heavy for him. Do some benching there, Dexter. You'll be all right. Rob, you got anything to add on the running backs there?
Well, I mentioned I got to see a little bit of Bishop there. They were playing the Green Bay Packers, and they did give him the ball quite a bit. He had 13 attempts for 37 yards, so his average was only 2.8, so that wasn't ideal. But the thing is about it, though, as far as the eye test goes, he looked better than those numbers actually said. People have been getting kind of down on him a little bit from a month or two ago as far as ADP. They're just not. I mean, he's still a rookie. If he can't do it in pass pro, protect the quarterback, then he's not. If he fumbles or whatnot, then he's going to lose his role. So I don't know if people are seeing this as a potential kind of Ronnie Hillman, Monte Ball situation at the beginning of Denver's camp last year, where the veteran ended up coming in. So people are a little bit scared of him, but They think he's going to get the volume. He did look okay. Of course, you want to see his yards per carry go quite a bit up. The biggest concern I've actually heard about him, though, is not really about him. It's more about Jake Locker. So not only is Jake Locker, about as injury-prone as Darren McFadden, it seems like, but Locker, if you watched him play and seen him play in college, the guy, he looks at his first read, and if it's not there, he runs the ball. Like, that's what he does. That's what Jake Locker is. So the concern there is that he's not going to go through the progressions enough to check it down to Bishop from a PPR perspective. He doesn't ever throw to his running backs. He has his first look. If it's not there, if it's there, he throws it. If it's not, he runs it. That's what he does. So I'm a little concerned with him from that perspective, that Bishop may not get the touches that we're all hoping he would get, and he is a rookie. So
yeah. Well, speaking of throwing the ball or running it, his main target this year is Kendall Wright. And apparently he's made a strong impression early on Coach Weisenhunt, who plans to use the speedy receiver a lot. Quote, "We're going to move Kendall around. He can do a lot of different things. We're going to try to put him in situations where he can exploit that. He's an explosive player, good hands. He's got good vision. I really like what I've seen." So that's good. Kendall Wright's another guy that I'm really high on. He can be a sneaky, later round pick, middle rounds this year, but definitely a guy you can rely on. He's the main target down there. Weisenhunt also has praised Wright's improvement, his discipline, releases, and route running. He's pleased with his daily consistency and effort moving things around. So he's improving. He's getting better. He was good last year. He was a good guy to have as a flex play or a wide receiver 3, So he should definitely be a decent wide receiver 2 this year.
Yeah, Jay, he's going right now in the middle of the 8th round. So he's going right after Reggie Wayne and Golden Tate. He's going right before Eric Decker and Ruben Randall. So he's clearly a value in the middle of the 8th round, considering what he did last year, especially in PPR leagues.
Yeah, I had him last year, man. And if he improves on what he did last year, like I said, wide receiver 2 all day long, I would feel comfortable taking him even on a crappy team like Tennessee. So. Another guy, Justin Hunter, has had some, quietly been impressing, but at the same time, the coach, everybody was kind of going a little crazy with it. The press was asking a lot of questions about him. And the coach said, look, he's got room to improve. Good football player. He needs to continue to grow. He's young. There's a lot of things that he's got to work on, but he's a talented player. We're going to continue to push him, and hopefully he'll grow into an outstanding player. So, Tennessee, not a lot of, hopeful things down there this year, outside of maybe Bishop Sankey and Kendall Wright, but did Sean Green, stay away from him. Bishop Sankey, again, you can get him. If you can get him later, take him. Anything to add on the old Titans there?
Well, I just think if I did spend the draft pick on Bishop, I think I would back him up with Sean Green. I'm not thrilled with his talent and all that, but being a Denver fan and seeing how the running back situation panned out last year, with all these high hopes for the rookie, thinking he's going to be the RB1, and then the veteran comes in because he doesn't fumble and can pass pro better, that would have me a little concerned. So no one else is going to draft Sean Green, so you can grab him in 14th, 15th round. I would probably do that to back up Bishop if I was going to draft him.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about handcuffs. So
I do.
I'm not, and Sean Green is probably the worst of the worst handcuffs you could fucking have, man. If you've got to play Sean Green, if that's like the situation you're in where you have to like play him, God help you. I feel so sorry for you. I'll light a candle for you the next time I'm in church, which will be a long time from now, but I will light a candle for you if you play Sean Green.
Yeah, well, and maybe that's a reason not to draft Bishop. I don't know. But all right, so let's move on to a team that's actually halfway decent. Let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts. So, everyone knows who their quarterback is. The guy's a beast, Andrew Luck. He's of course killing it in training camp in his first preseason game. By all accounts, he looks as good as ever. If you could pick one quarterback to open a franchise with, of all the quarterbacks in our league, Andrew Luck is the number one by far guy that you're going to choose. So that's a lock. Kevin Bowman reports that Luck, the passing offense has shown great rhythm early in camp. They're looking to spread things out a little bit. get the ball to multiple targets. Rhythm and timing there is supposed to be, what he wants for that offense. It's going to be up tempo, and have some more juice, as they say, as opposed to last year. So Luck's expected to make another leap, as we would all hope that he does, even from a fantasy perspective, and post some big numbers, because he really didn't. He was actually pretty inconsistent last year from a fantasy perspective. I think he only put up, I might be wrong here, but something like 25 touchdowns. So it wasn't ideal. He's got all the talent in the world. It's just the coaching staff there just needs to let the guy open it up. I mean, he's the best player on that team. They need to just let him open up the offense. And I think this year, having those widers, having Reggie Wayne back, of course, Hakeem Nicks, who's actually kind of looked like crap, but T.Y. Hilton, of course, is still there. He's got a lot more weapons. Dwayne Allen is back from a tight end perspective to go along with Kobe Fleener. He's got a lot more weapons starting off the season. Offensive line is a little bit brutal right now. Their starting center went down with an ankle injury, but all the reports now have been that they think he'll be back, for the first game, and everyone's hopeful of that. So, his backup is Matt Hasselbeck. The reports coming in from him's a little bit mixed. He's had some struggles, but he's apparently is a pretty good deep ball according to the reports out of camp. But he's, of course, he's fantasy irrelevant unless Luck goes down. If Luck goes down, you're in a deep league, maybe a quarterback league or two quarterback league or a super flex. There's worse backups to have to start on a pretty good offense than Matt Hasselbeck, the veteran there. So. Some of the biggest news out of Indianapolis to this point is, of course, the injury to Vic Ballard. I can't remember, Jay. Was this the guy? Was this the ACL or the Achilles?
You got me.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's one of the two.
It's one of. He's done for the season. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, he's definitely done for the season. He wasn't, in line for the starting job there, of course, behind Trent Richardson and Ahmad Bradshaw, but he was there and he's done. So that puts. Puts the ball, a little bit more in the hands of these other two guys. Whether or not Trent can live up to expectations, time will tell. Richardson, speaking of, he is nursing a little bit of a hamstring injury he had for the first few days of camp, but he did play in their first preseason game, and frankly didn't look all that great. The big thing with him is yards per carry is always low. It's like 3.2, and even when he did well in fantasy 2 years ago at the Browns. That was because he got caught 35, 40 balls out of the backfield, and he happened to fall into the end zone several 10, 12 times. But his yards per carry have always been down since he left Alabama. So Mike Wells' assessment that Richardson has quote gone from thinking too much after taking the handoff to running off his natural instincts with explosion. That's what you want to hear, but I don't know that I saw that, frankly, in their first preseason game. So you've got the veteran Ahmad Bradshaw, as I mentioned, behind him, but those two guys will be the primary running backs this season. Bradshaw, he's got chronic foot issues. He's been hampered with that his whole career. But I tell you, when the guy's in there playing and he's healthy enough to play, he's a beast, and he looked better than Trent Richardson last year. I know Trent Richardson had to go and learn a new offense and all that drama, but Ahmad is very good when he's in the game. So he looks healthy as of now. Of course, they haven't started the season yet, so that's par for the course there for Bradshaw. And I talked about their wide receivers a little bit. They have a ton of them. They've got Reggie Wayne back, as I said. Him and T.Y. Hilton are definitely going to carry the load here. Reggie Wayne, of course, I can't remember how old he is, Jay. If he's like 35.
Yeah, he's right around there.
Yeah, but they said he's looked great in camp. He's shown a lot of burst. ACL is a distant memory for him. So he's and Andrew Luck and him have great chemistry. He relies on him. He trusts him. So Reggie Wayne's still going to catch a lot of balls this year in a PPR league. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he catches 80 balls. So don't sleep on the guy. I know people are concerned about him because of his age and his ACL, but honestly, he's probably going to do better than we think he's going to do. So the big thing too, as I mentioned, Hakeem Nicks is there. He came over from the Giants, but he's just looking like garbage. People thought Hakeem Nicks might actually be the wide receiver 2 there in Indy when he showed up. There were some good things said about him out of the gate, but he's looked bad. He looked bad in the preseason game. So that's not great. So it's basically going to be a 2 tight end set is what they're saying. 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. You've got Kobe Fleener and the return, like I mentioned, of Dwayne Allen. Then you'll have Reggie Wayne and T.Y. Hilton. So I don't even know how much Akeem Nicks is going to be on the field, quite frankly. And I'm getting higher and higher on Dwayne Allen. People are forgetting about him because he was hurt last year. But he is definitely going to be the tight end 1 in Indianapolis. It's not going to be Kobe Fleener. Kobe's going to play more of the blocking role. And Dwayne Allen is just an absolute beast. Really good reports from him coming out of training camp. He's just built like a brick house, they say. Catches everything. He's just a stud. So I think it's a great weapon for Andrew Luck, and I think Dwayne Allen's going to have some good fantasy value on his own right.
Yeah, I definitely been taking a closer look at Dwayne Allen lately also. And you're right, a lot of people he's not even on a lot of people's radar, so definitely looking into him.
Yeah, he's not even being drafted. I mean, and I think that's because he's coming back from injury. People are kind of forgetting about him, but that's what we're here for with Red Zone Warriors. So if you need to get a deep flyer on a guy in a tight end, or you're drafting a second one, I feel a lot better about Dwayne Allen than I do about guys like Antonio Gates and Heath Miller for that matter, and even Eric Ebron, those type of guys. So I would definitely take a flyer on Allen.
Oh, definitely. But hey, don't be talking shit about Ebron. I'll have to kick your ass.
Detroit homer.
Hell yeah, baby. They're winning the Super Bowl this year.
That's the rumor.
That's not a rumor. It's fucking fact, bitch.
Well, you'll be in Vegas soon, so we're going to place that bet.
You're damn right. All right, so moving on to Houston. The mighty Texans. Not so mighty. All right, Ryan Fitzpatrick is your starting quarterback in Houston. I'm sure every Houston fan is so excited right now to have Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Well, just like Joe Flacco, you don't spell elite without Ryan Fitzpatrick in his beard.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Look, Fitzpatrick is a known commodity, a capable veteran starter, but he does have a tendency for turnovers, questionable accuracy on deep balls, and a penchant for throwing short, intermediate passes. So he's not a very sexy quarterback. He's not the kind of guy that, you're going to watch like a Peyton Manning or a Stafford or a Drew Brees. He's just a run-of-the-mill quarterback that isn't very exciting. Not surprisingly, he's back to his normal self in camp. His deep balls have been mixed, some interceptions. He's had a lot of good underneath throws. So Fitzpatrick, probably not somebody you're going to want to take as a fantasy quarterback. Stay away from him. Let some other moron pick him, or let him sit on the waivers. Who cares?
Where he belongs.
Exactly, he belongs on the waivers. Arian Foster, on the other hand, apparently his sore hamstring is flaring up again. He missed a couple days of practice. He returned to practice last Wednesday, only to be on the sidelines again Thursday. Head coach Bill O'Brien says he's doing okay. The kind of day-to-day thing, nothing serious, I would assume, but you can't assume anything that he'd be back pretty soon, end quote. So the coach doesn't even know what the hell is really going on. Foster's got a second-round ADP, and if he is already dealing with injuries, I'll probably pass on him, let somebody else take him. He offers a lot of upside if he stays healthy, but there's a lot of risk involved with that pick. And
I want nothing to do with this guy. A couple months ago, I was actually pretty high on him. I'm like, man, just the thought of him putting up the numbers he put up a couple, 2-3 years ago, where he was the number 1 overall running back off the board in fantasy drafts. I'm like, man, people are going to be sleeping on this guy. If he does that, I mean, if you can get him in the second round, and he could win the league for you. But man, just these injuries are already flaring up, and the guy's weird. He's been talking about weird. I don't know if you've ever heard him on interviews or follow him on Twitter, but the guy is a piece of work. And then the news came out just about a week or two ago that he considered retiring after last season. It's just, I don't feel good about this guy anymore. And to have to take him as the 10th running back off the board at the 207, I'm just not doing it. I mean, I'd rather, Le'Veon Bell's right there, Giovanni Alfred Morris is right there, or I'd rather just frankly take a safer pick and take a high-end tight end or a high-end wide receiver. I just do not want to roll the dice on Arian Foster in the second round this year at all.
Yeah, I agree. And, we preach that quite a bit here at Red Zone Warriors is don't gamble with your early picks. It is not a good strategy to employ. You will regret it. So moving on to wide receivers, concerns of Andre Johnson holding out were squashed when he reported to camp on time and participated in the team's first practices. Yay! He looked a little rusty during his first couple days, catching passes from Ryan Fitzpatrick. He then pulled his right hamstring in last Monday's practice while diving for a catch.
That's what happens when you hold out.
Yeah, exactly. The coach says he's starting to do better. There's no need to rush him back. He'll be back when he's ready to be back. I mean, he's a veteran. The guy knows what he's doing. Might be a little rusty. He could catch a lot of balls this year, or he could be a flop. I'm kind of nervous to take him. He's getting picked in like the third round, I believe, early fourth. A little early for me on him this year, I think. But, man, I don't know. What do you think about Andre this year, Rob?
Yeah, he's going at the 409, so towards the latter part of the fourth round. I'm just scared of the offense in general. I mean, they clearly needed him yesterday in the preseason game. They got their ass handed to them by Arizona. Of course, I know it's a preseason game and all that, but the thing is about not only is the guy, he plays hurt, he rarely misses games. He is a consummate professional. He's going to be on the field. He's going to catch balls. He catches if he plays 16 games, it's a lock. He's going to catch 100 balls. That's just freaking history. Year after year after year, it's a lock. He's going to catch 100 balls. He's tough. He's huge. But the quarterback situation there, the running game, we're all sketched out on Arian Foster. I think he's okay. But for me, at that pick in the fourth round, I'd probably this year just feel better taking somebody else. I mean, Cordell Patterson is going right there along with him. You feel it might be a little riskier, but the upside is definitely there. Crabtree's right there. I feel a lot safer. I don't know. It's definitely not a guy I'm targeting. And I'd probably go a different path if I was faced with that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Now lining up across from Andre Johnson is second-year receiver DeAndre Hopkins, and he's looking good and is much improved since OTAs, according to O'Brien. He's a very hard worker. He's a guy that really, in our opinion, gets better and better every day. This is a guy, you've got ADP up. Where's he going right now?
Yeah, he's going at the beginning of the 10th round.
Yeah, so if you can get DeAndre Hopkins at the beginning of the 10th round or a little bit later than that, definitely worth taking a flyer on him. Especially if Andre Johnson struggles or gets injured or anything like that. I mean, this guy's going to see a lot of looks. Fitzpatrick's probably going to rely on him for underneath stuff a lot. So 10th round, DeAndre Hopkins, that's one I would probably go for if I was looking for a receiver in the 10th round.
Yeah, and people feel the same way. I mean, back in middle of June, he was going at the beginning of the 11th, and now he's going, at the beginning of the 10th. So he's risen a full round in ADP, which is bad, for as far as getting value for him. But people are definitely, getting higher and higher on this guy. So he's definitely a solid guy, especially in the 10th round. So, all right, well, that's going to do it for the AFC South. We'll get out of those horrible teams outside of Indianapolis. So on our next show, we'll be breaking down the major training camp headlines and position battles in the NFC. So join us next week for that, when the Commish will be here alongside me in the beautiful state of Denver, Colorado. In the meantime, go to redzonewarriors.com where you can watch previous episodes, see our rankings, and subscribe to and rate our show via iTunes. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and tweet us all your fantasy football questions at Red Zone Warriors. So for the Kush Man, I am Rob the Commish Smith, and remember, if you are taking a fantasy off season, you are already losing. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.